Hi, my name is John Paul, the Senior Manager of Public Affairs and Traffic Safety for AAA Northeast. The 100 Deadliest Days is the period between Memorial Day and Labor Day when fatal teen crashes increase dramatically. With us is Danstrollo of the In Control Family Foundation to tell us how to reduce our risk during that 100-day period and beyond for both teens and adults. Dan, tell us about yourself.
I am the executive director of the In Control Family Foundation, and we offer this Crash Prevention 101 course. We also do a lot of community engagement and programs in different towns. I'm doing a program that you introduced me to that we're doing with AAA and Safe Roads Alliance in the city of Medford, and we do different things like that across the state. But the training that we offer is a 4.5-hour program, and that's the primary. We call it CP 101. It's the primary class that we try to get people to take, and it's a combination of classroom demonstrations in the vehicle where our instructor is driving and then the student actually driving the vehicle. And it's a little different in COVID times. Right now we're only training in Weymouth. We reduced the size of our classes, and we don't have people riding with anyone other than the instructor in the vehicle, and everybody's masked up and all the regular safety precautions. But the fundamentals of what we're doing are still the same, and they'll do a demonstration of what they need to do. Then they'll do it themselves until they get the hang of it, and then we'll kind of talk in the classroom briefly, explain what they went through, talk about the next drill, and then just go back outside and repeat it all over again. And the premise is we want to see them fail. That first drill we do is a highway speed panic stop, and we have them slam on the brakes at between 50 and 60 miles an hour, and frankly, a lot of people mess it up. When you feel the seatbelt lock up and hear the noises and the car bouncing around, it's intimidating, and they take their foot off the brake, and we set up a wall of cones in front of them, and they'll run into that wall of cones, and we have them repeat it. But what's really interesting is when they repeat that drill, and really all the drills we do, they get it. 100% of the time on that braking drill, the second time they do it, they're fine. And that's what we're counting on. You're not as intimidated by the way the vehicle behaves once you've experienced it. These are things you can't do. Traditional driver's ed can't do it on Main Street. You shouldn't be trying to do it yourself. We go through tires every 7 days. The wear and tear on tires alone is worth the price of admission. But ultimately, it's something that really every driver should experience, not just new kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've always talked about you've had kids with their learner's permits, but you've also had, what was the oldest person that's taken your program?
94 is the oldest. And I'll tell you, in COVID, what we've seen a lot of, the state has a number of grants that are towards safety in general in the workplace. And we've done a lot more commercial training during the week than we anticipated. Trailer training. We're training landscapers how to maneuver trailers. People are buying campers now. We just opened it up to the public to see who was interested in our trailing class, and there's so many campers out there that people are interested in towing, and maybe they wanted to buy something a little bigger, but they weren't confident about it. We've offered that. And then we also do what we call close quarters maneuvering, which is really just backing up in tight situations. And we work with some ambulance companies and a lot of courier services, and that sort of stuff has been, considering the pandemic and how much of an impact it's had on all of our organizations, we've been able to keep the lights on just by the sheer number of people taking advantage of that stuff.
And you also train police officers and you said ambulance, but EMS, but you've run programs with police officers as well, right?
Absolutely. It's a slightly different course, but not a ton, to be honest. I mean, the first 4.5 hours is pretty much the same. And then we get into some more involved stuff that's more high-speed related. But at the end of the day, the amount of driving they're doing, it's the number one killer of police officers, period. And it actually, prior to the pandemic, it had just jumped up 86%. I've lost track of the stats from 2020 at this point. But they really do lose a lot of officers in non-emergency related crashes, just driving around town, and, they maybe lose track of what they're doing. There's a lot of distractions in a police car, or other people hit them. But it's a really dangerous profession from that perspective.
Yeah, and this is, and a lot of what your class is, and it's like a lot of things, you're teaching muscle memory. You're teaching people to remember when to step on the brake, when to steer, where to look. And the idea is you do that over and over again, and you don't think about it afterwards, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to not only have them experience things so that they won't be as intimidated by them, but we have a lot of repetition so that they've got that muscle memory. And I'll add, we're really trying to chisel away at invincibility. I mean, that's inherent with young drivers, so that whole frontal lobe development that I hope someday will develop on myself, but for younger people, it's supposed to kick in the mid-20s. But the reality is, there's a lot of stuff drivers do.
Were you hit in the head as a teenager? Because
quite a bit. I must admit.
They say once you get hit in a certain area, that frontal lobe development
it's gone.
Yeah,
so, I keep volunteering for MRIs, but they tell me the plate won't make it easy either. So but I'll tell you, the whole concept of invincibility and adults. I mean, too many people are operating while playing on their phone, while playing with their dashboard, while doing something else as we described, whether it's trumpet practice or making pancakes in the passenger seat. I mean, there's a lot of distractions out there, not just the cell phone, and you can't drive if you're not engaged. You might think you can. And frankly, I blame a little bit of it on the improved technology, not just the autonomous stuff, but back when I got my license, if I was doing 70, it felt like I was doing 170, and so It's so quiet in cars now. I think people get lulled into a false sense of security.
Yeah, and our studies have shown that some of these voice operated systems, you kind of tell your car, navigation and put in an address. Your brain shuts off for up to 26 seconds, waiting for that to see if it worked. So you're anticipating, is it going to understand my voice? Is it going to tell me that I wanted to go to North Andover, or is it going to tell me I wanted to go to North Australia? So
no, you're totally right, and that's a huge piece, even just with the stop sign stuff. I mean, you get to a red light or you get to a stop sign, and people are like, "Okay, good, I got a couple seconds. I can check my text. I can reprogram the GPS." I can't stress enough. Pull over to do that sort of stuff. Get off the road, because as soon as you start traveling, it's a healthy 20 to 30 seconds before you've got situational awareness of what's going on. And we're seeing a lot more pedestrian crashes, a lot more bicycle crashes, just crashes within a couple blocks of those intersections where they didn't even realize it was the distraction that put them, into that position in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'll probably get fired again. The invincibility thing, I like to call it the Volvo Factor. And I just started to notice, like, people in Volvos, we're kind of rolling through those stop signs. They seem to be the ones that are on the phone, and I always say, well, they're driving the safest car in the world, so they think they can take some extra chances. And it isn't. You're still, like you said, it's that situational awareness. It's taking your eyes off the road for just a couple of seconds is at 60 miles an hour. A couple seconds is about 180 feet. That's a long time to take your eyes off the road.
And just, even if you do survive the crash, what are you going to do if you hurt somebody else? I mean, it's life-changing. So, forget about yourself for a second and think about the impact you could have on other families. And, and it's not fun. I mean, I know too many people. I meet a lot of young people who have already crashed once. I mean, the stat is something in the neighborhood of 75% of them are going to crash in the first 2 years behind the wheel. And they didn't want to. They just lacked the skills. They lacked the experience. They just put themselves into a position that an experienced driver might not have. And unfortunately, a lot of experienced drivers are putting themselves in positions that they shouldn't either, but they don't see the harm in it. Right.
Yeah. I think it takes, 5 years to be good at anything, including driving. I mean, if somebody said to you, we have to do heart surgery, and you're like, how much experience do you have? Well, I just got out of school, and, I've been doing this for 20, 25 minutes now.
Well, and the thing that pains me is, I mean, I've got kids now at the varsity level of sports who, my older son played basketball since he was bigger than the ball, basically, in order to be capable of doing what he's doing. A lot of these kids at 6 months of experience, it's stretching into longer because, with the pandemic and maybe people are putting it off due to technology, but they're not getting any more time behind the wheel. They're not necessarily even driving the 40 hours the state asks, and I would ask parents to spend over 100 hours. But at the end of the day, that's such a little amount of time for something that is truly the most dangerous thing they're going to do for the first half of their lives.
Right. And the idea that parents, and I hear it all the time, my kid just got their driver's license. Thank God. Now they can take my other kids on errands and to school and all that sort of stuff. Probably, if you thought that the bus driver only had, minimal amount of experience before you put your kid on the bus, you probably wouldn't do that.
Now, my kids have, and I'll give them credit. In fact, briefly, I'll mention we did a podcast which you were nice enough to be part of, and you can find it online just by searching for Drive in Control. But my kids participated, my two oldest participated in that podcast. And it's been interesting because they will report back to me about their friends and driving and fears they have. And they've been good about not, bringing other kids in the car with them. I mean, once in a while I've caught them and we've had some conversations. And when I say I've caught them, I mean I've caught my son because when they're smarter than us. But at the end of the day, there really are a lot of risks, not just with driving their siblings around, but having additional passengers in the vehicle for a young person has proven to be one of the most dangerous, if not the most dangerous thing you can allow. And more parents, realizing that would make the roads safer too.
Yeah, I looked over in traffic one time. There was 4 teenagers in a car, and they were all on cell phones. And I'm like, I can't even. You think about you put one person in the car, it kind of doubles the risk of a crash. What happens when you put 3 kids in the car and they're all on cell phones at the same time, texting and Snapchatting and TikToking?
They don't even need that to be distracted. 3 weeks ago, my son gets into a car with his friend Daniel, who I want to strangle, and I say to the kid, "Be careful when you back out." I wish he hadn't pulled straight into my driveway because I don't like people backing up, but I didn't say that. I just said, "Be careful when you back out. My car is parked behind you." And he said, "Don't worry, Mr. Strollo, I got it." And then he backed right into the side of my car.
Well, you gave him a challenge. That was probably.
But hey, I gave him all the warning. Oh, it's killing me. It's killing me. But it's part of being a kid. But you hear a lot of parents. It doesn't need to be. If you spend the extra time driving with your kids, if we can work with them on training, if you take the whole thing seriously. In fact, I would ask parents, if you've got younger kids, they're not going to have their permit for a year or so, start riding around and talking to them. Listen to our podcast and learn how you can teach them to be a safe driver. Go into a parking lot somewhere. Get them on a rider lawnmower. Don't have the first day that they get behind the wheel of something the day after they got their permit. We want them to be ready for this and stretch out that experience. And then, frankly, don't get them a license just because it's been 6 months and they've done 40 hours with you in driver's ed. Do it when you know they're not going to crash, and it is possible. Yeah, no, it really is. You mentioned something about, grants and other types of things. The crash prevention course, might be expensive for some folks. And sometimes there's ways around that, right? Insurance companies help, things like that, right? Yeah. So what I will tell people is don't ever let the price get in your way of being able to afford to train with us. We have friends out there. We were able to give you a gift certificate in the past, and we've got one coming today that was held in part sponsored by the Hummingbird Foundation that has been covering the cost of training for folks. There's a couple other entities out there that have been helping us out. So if you can't afford it, talk to us. If you can afford it, we ask you to pay what you can afford. And so there's regularly a $350 price, but some of these insurance companies bring it down to less, $75 from safety insurance, and then they give you 5% off your auto policy. And then there's other companies that give you more off your auto policy, but don't pay towards the course. But we'll try to find a way for it to be affordable. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you're going to save, especially with these new drivers, it's a 5-year savings in most cases. You're going to save more than if we had you pay full price. And just in a year or two. No. Before we let you go, and again, it's driveincontrol.org is one way to find you at least. If you can give somebody 3 tips without going to class. So if you just said, hey, if everybody did these 3 things, what would they be? I think I'd start with leaving a lot more room between you and the vehicle in front of you. We try to train 3 seconds. Yep. Watch that car pass something and then count out 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Have at least 3 seconds between you and the car in front of you. Can I count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi? You can do even Massachusetts. It all depends where you but at the end of the day, somewhere in that neighborhood would be great. 3 seconds. So we want you to give more space. I really would like you to think about the vehicle you're driving, especially these parents who go and get second or third hand cars for their kids. I want them to drive a car that has some of this safety. I'd like it to have ABS brakes. Mm-hmm. I would like it to have stability control if possible. In my household, the newest car is the one my kids drive. People would think I'm crazy because they think they're going to dent it up. It's been on the road 2 years now. It doesn't have any dents on it. Knock on something here. But they've been pretty good about it, and we've spent a lot of energy trying to train them. And then my last part is just please drive engaged. It is a responsibility. It is not a time to go, update your Facebook page. It is not a time to get knee deep into, really emotional conversations. It is a time to get you from point A to point B. And if you want to listen to a little music softly in the background, I'm not going to blame you, but please make the point and, stay really engaged in that driving and keep yourself safe and others.
Yeah, I mean, all the technology in the world doesn't replace an engaged driver. So,
No.
That engaged driver who's paying attention, they have their eyes up, they're looking at the road, they're keeping that safe following distance. Those are all the things that help keep people safe and practice. And like you said, you need to get the practice in. So, and I love the idea you're doing a class on backing up trailers, because I can't back up to save my life.
Oh, come by and see us. We've had a lot of really positive feedback from that. It is such a weird. I mean, I've been driving trailers since I was a kid. I was a landscaper, I think, when I was 16. But it is really an odd feeling. But once you get it down, it's hard to lose it. So we'll have you out there on the campsites anytime.
Yeah, I'm gonna push myself, because I just put a trailer hitch on my car. So
there you go.
That's the next step to pulling something behind it. So small steps at a time here. So
exactly, nothing wrong with baby steps. Nothing wrong at all.
Right. That's right. And the phone number is, on your website.
978.
Yep.
658-4144. And driveincontrol.org. If you have a question, contact us. We'll get you there anytime. And please, listen to that podcast. I don't care if you've got a new driver in the family or not. I guarantee you listen to it. I think there's 28 episodes. There's a lot of stuff to learn. So I think it'd be worth people's time if they want to.
And if you happen to have a little bit of extra money around, you'll take a donation, won't you?
Any day of the week. Absolutely. Yeah. We would not be here today if it wasn't for, we had some amazing folks step up in the end of, this pandemic has been tough on organizations that do things in person, and we really were impressed with the support we got out there. So thanks to any of your listeners who helped us out, and thank you for having me on today to talk about us, because the more people training, the more successful we'll be in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's up to all of us to help keep the roads safe, whether it's you behind the wheel by yourself, whether you're trying to keep your kids and grandkids safe by giving them advice, or going to school to learn a little bit more. Like the back of your car on your website said, it saves money, it saves lives. And I almost wish you reversed that. I almost wish it said saves lives, and by the way, it saves money.
You know what? We just got our new cars. I'll see what we can do. We'll have one dedicated to you.
All right. Good. Yeah, that one and the one with the dented trailer behind it. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Hey, Dan, always a pleasure, and thank you so much, and thank you so much to the Hummingbird Foundation for the gift certificate. I think we're going to save it. We're going to give it away next week. So we'll be chatting about the program next week as well. We'll give away the certificate, and what I've found is anyone who takes your class becomes a spokesperson, and whether they do it because they think they do it, or they just do it because they went through your class and they said, you know what, if you left a little bit more room, if you covered the brake pedal with your foot when you didn't have your eyes directly in front of you, all those kind of things, they become an advocate for you. So
we got about 40,000 champions out there, and you're right. It changes. I hear from people, we've been doing this 13, 14 years, something crazy. My math is probably off, but we've been doing it a while, and I don't go a week now without hearing from somebody that missed a crash, and we love that. Absolutely.
Hey, Dan, thank you.